Europeans arrived in the waters off California in 1542. Then they sailed through the Golden Gate and discovered one of the great natural harbors in the world, San Francisco Bay. Oh, did I mention the 233 years between those two events? How was it that for 2 centuries the Europeans completely missed this big and very important bay? This is a story of fog, but maybe not the fog you're expecting. San Francisco. This city is full of stories, and today I'd like to share one with you. Are we sitting comfortably? Good. It's time for the story of the overdue discovery of San Francisco Bay. Once upon a time, Europeans found their way to the west coast of North America. By then, the Ohlone and Miwok nations had been living, fishing, and farming around this bay for over 10,000 years. At this time, Europeans traveled mostly by sailing ship. Finding a bay was a big, big deal. Sailing by wind is a dangerous business, especially down the so-called Pacific coast, with its strong winds and rocky shorelines. Plenty of ships ran aground and sank during those years. A bay meant someplace you could get out of the weather, away from the waves. You could find food and fresh water and do repairs. So how did it happen that this bay, this huge, sheltered, calm bay, took 233 years to discover? To put that in some perspective, the first vessel to arrive in San Francisco Bay got here 251 years ago. That means it took just about as long to find the bay as everything that has happened since. The conventional explanation is San Francisco Bay is foggy and sailors missed the Golden Gate's narrow entrance in the swirling fog. And there is some truth to this. San Francisco Bay is foggy, and that does limit visibility. But understand, hundreds of vessels passed through these waters in those 233 years. It simply beggars belief to think that every one of them passed by on a foggy day. To understand the true story, we need to look at California's geography and also at what was motivating the voyages at that time. What we now call the Golden Gate Strait is just a 1-mile stretch along a coastline of over 800 miles. To the north is Point Reyes. 30 miles to the west are the treacherous Farallon Islands. The coast then veers towards the south and east. The first European exploration of the California coastline came in 1542. This was the great age of discovery. Columbus had made his voyages just a few decades earlier, and Europeans were drawn by the prospect of new land and, frankly, ridiculous notions of cities overflowing with gold. Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo sailed north from Acapulco, stopping in places like San Diego, the Channel Islands, and Santa Monica. His expedition likely got as far as southern Oregon, but Cabrillo died on the voyage. His pilot, Portola Ferrer, assumed command, ultimately reporting he'd found little for the Spanish Empire to exploit, and certainly nothing worth the long and dangerous journey. But in 1565, the Spanish government did discover a way to exploit this coastline, though it had little to do with California itself. Mexican silver could be sold in Asia for an extreme profit, and Asian luxuries like silk, porcelain, ivory, and spices could be sold back to Europe. This established the Manila Galleon, a regular trade route between Acapulco and Manila that persisted well into the 19th century. So from 1565 on, in addition to journeys of discovery, at least one ship each year passed somewhere in the vicinity of the Golden Gate. So was the bay just so foggy that none of these sailors spotted what was right in front of them? Hardly. These galleons were laden with precious cargo and worth literally millions of Spanish reals. With that kind of money on the line, no captain wanted to risk running aground. Early in the trade, galleons sailing east from Manila would sight land, usually around Cape Mendocino, but then sail south along the coast. But on reaching Point Reyes, they would turn southwest to avoid the Farallon Islands and any possible reefs or shallow water. Remember, at this time, the coast wasn't that well mapped, and one never knew what dangers lurked just out of sight. The Farallon Islands are 30 miles west of San Francisco. If you're that far out, even on a crystal clear day, even if you're looking straight at that mile-wide opening of the Golden Gate, you could be forgiven for seeing the Oakland-Berkeley Hills behind and assuming it was all one continuous stretch of coast. In later years, galleon captains began to identify the signs of land, even before somebody shouted, "Land ho!" or whatever the Spanish equivalent of that would be. Seaweeds, sea lions, sea otters were all telltale signs that the California coast was near. At this point, ships would turn southeast even before sighting land, likely bypassing the elusive Golden Gate altogether. So the bay wasn't spotted by sea. Why not by land? The Spanish expansion by land into California was slow. There were probably a few reasons for this, but some of it was undoubtedly political. European wars distracted the Spanish government, and Ferrer's original report that there was little worth exploiting may have played a part. Finally, there was the Colorado Desert, a hot, unforgiving environment where water supply was uncertain. This made land expeditions treacherous. It was only as the Spanish government began to feel its hold slipping in the New World that it began to take the California coast seriously. In 1697, in an effort to secure their claim in the area, Spanish missionaries were sent north of Baja California into what was then known as Alta California. In 1769, they began to establish a series of missions. In that same year, Gaspar de Portola led a pair of expeditions deep into California. On the first of these, he was looking for Monterey Bay, which had been identified as far back as 1602 as a potential port. Now, Monterey Bay is too open and exposed to Pacific storms to be ideal, but at the time, it was the most promising location known. Portola's expedition accidentally bypasses Monterey, and they unknowingly wander onto the San Francisco Peninsula. There, a tribe of local Ohlone pointed them up to where I am now. Something of an irony given the point I'm making, but on the day I'm visiting it, the Bay Discovery site is completely and utterly socked in with fog. There, a tribe of local Ohlone pointed them up to where I am now, what's now known as Sweeney Ridge, where Jose Francis Ortega became the first European to, at last, see the San Francisco Bay. Even then, the enormity of what they had discovered seems to have been completely lost on Portola's men. They were only disappointed that they had missed Monterey. They even misidentified the body of water they were looking at, assuming it to be what is now called Drake's Bay, which had been named Bahia de San Francisco by Sebastian Rodriguez Cermeño in 1594. The only person on the expedition who seemed to grasp the importance of the discovery was the Franciscan missionary, Friar Juan Crespi. He recorded the bay as a very large and fine harbor, such that not only all the navy of our most Catholic Majesty, but those of all Europe could take shelter in it. In 1775, a ship was at last dispatched to explore the newfound San Francisco Bay. On August 5th of that year, Juan de Ayala sailed his ship, the San Carlos, through the Golden Gate. Ayala's expedition mapped the bay, and in 1776, the Spanish established both Mission San Francisco de Asís, now known as Mission Dolores, and the Presidio. Looking back, it's hard not to wonder how centuries of explorers and merchants and missionaries missed something so big and so important. But the truth is that it was a new land. They didn't know what they were going to find. They didn't know what hazards they were going to encounter. So, in a sense, it was a fog that hid the bay from view. It was the fog of uncertainty in an age of discovery. Are we still sitting comfortably? Why? The world is full of stories. Get up, get out, and explore your world. Today's whiskey is Teeling from the Liberties in Dublin, Ireland, finished in a rum cask.